Good evening. Our meeting is going to be starting very soon, but just want to go through a couple of housekeeping items first. One thing to be sure of is to please be sure that your name is listed properly in the attendee section of this meeting. If it's not, we will not be able to cross-reference it with our sign-up sheet and be able to take you from an attendee to a panelist. So please be sure to rename yourself in the attendee section if it is not the name with which you registered. When we are ready to hear your testimony, you will be elevated from an attendee role to a panelist role. We will say your name and indicate that you're being promoted to a panelist. You'll see an invitation on your screen. You will click on it. The box will indicate the host would like to promote you to become a panelist. And when that box appears on your screen, please click Join as Panelist. There might be a slight lag. Don't worry, you'll come on. And then please make sure you turn off your microphone, and it's up to you whether or not you'd like to be on camera. If you're having technical difficulties, we'll just go ahead and skip over you, promote the attendee, and come back to you to see if you've been able to figure out whether it is your speakers or whatever it might be. But we'll come back to you. If the technical difficulty is still occurring, we would have to ask you to send your testimony in through the grac@maryland.gov email. When you do become a panelist, you will have 3 minutes to speak. That is a firm 3 minutes. And after the 3 minutes, you will be moved back to an attendee role. The reason for that is that we have a lot of speakers this evening, and we need to get through as many as possible. So even if you are still speaking at 3 minutes, we will have to cut you off. There will be a timer in the upper right corner as you are testifying that you can note to determine how much time you have left. We've had an overwhelming response to this meeting once again, and unfortunately that means we may not get to all of our registered speakers tonight. I believe that this evening we have almost 100. We have over 90 speakers for this evening's meeting, so it's doubtful that we will get to them. If there is a meeting that is planned after this, we will notify those who were not called. Otherwise, please send your written testimony into that grac@maryland.gov. Please remember that this is a listening session and is meant to serve as a way for the commission to hear your thoughts and concerns. However, any aggressive or inappropriate behavior or foul language will result in immediate removal from the meeting. Once you are moved back, you are still welcome to observe for the remainder of the meeting. You may see a spinning wheel once you are taken from a panelist back to an attendee. Don't touch any buttons, it's waiting to move you back. It will move you back eventually. And if you are disconnected, you can always rejoin the meeting. This meeting is also being live streamed on the Maryland Department of Planning's YouTube channel, and a recording of this meeting will be added to the GRAC website as well. Finally, I am not aware at this point in time of a meeting that is upcoming, but we will post that to the website once another meeting is determined or whether or not there will be one. And with that, I'm going to turn this back over to the chair for this evening's meeting, former Attorney General Brian Frosh.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the fourth public listening session of the Governor's Redistricting Advisory Commission. I want to thank everyone who has joined us, as well as my fellow commission members, and they are Mayor Ray Morris, Delegate and Chairman C.T. Wilson, and Senate President Bill Ferguson. Unfortunately, Senator Angela Alsobrooks had something that came up that was urgent this evening, and she won't be able to join us. As she mentioned last week, we'll get together soon to review the written testimony, take up the question of whether we put maps forward for feedback and comment from the public. We have a full Zoom of Marylanders waiting to provide us with their thoughts on mid-cycle redistricting in Maryland's current map, as Deputy Secretary Fleckenstein just said. Today's verbal testimony must be no longer than 3 minutes, and screen sharing, unfortunately, is not an option. With that, I will turn it back over to Deputy Secretary Fleckenstein, who will kick off our testimony process.
Thank you so much. Our first speaker tonight is James Dennis. James, you should be getting an invitation. There you are. Please be sure to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep. Awesome. Hello, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. While I do appreciate the Commission's openness to dialogue from the people of Maryland, it would appear the Commission has already made up its mind. Throughout the United States history, gerrymandering has been used to gain a political advantage. That is the sole purpose, gaining an edge over the opponent. I do applaud Senate President Ferguson for having enough common sense to know this initiative will have a massive backfire, and rightfully so. Just a few years ago, the map was so extreme that even a Democratic judge ordered it to be redrawn, an extreme gerrymander. The excuse now for Maryland's mid-cycle redistricting initiative is to level the playing field regarding other states' redistricting, such as Texas. As a Republican, I can confidently say any effort to gaining political advantage by redistricting is certainly undemocratic. Regarding Maryland, 2 wrongs do not make a right. As of 2025, Maryland is ranked second among the most gerrymandered states in the Union. Maryland Democrats have long drawn congressional maps that break up Republican voters in multiple Democratic-leaning districts. Democrats won 62% of the statewide vote in 2024, but hold all but 1 congressional seat, 7 out of 8. Please explain how this is fair. It is plain and simple not. Fair redistricting is usually done every 10 years. Maryland's mid-cycle redistricting is another way for Democrats to gerrymander the state to death. The governor reiterates, leave no one behind. Republicans have been left behind for decades, and this effort is unacceptable. Governor Moore again, Maryland is ranked second in the nation for gerrymandering. Are you shooting for first? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up on our list is Danny Scheibel. Danny, I just sent you the panelist link. Please accept and unmute.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your time. My name is Danny Scheibel. I am a Hyattsville, Maryland resident, and I live in the 4th Congressional District of Maryland. I also serve on the Hyattsville City Council, although the views that I express here today are mine alone. First off, I wanted to say that I abhor gerrymandering. When politicians pick voters rather than voters picking politicians, we weaken our own institutions and the representative democracy enshrined in our Constitution. As a capital D Democrat, I also want to acknowledge that ending gerrymandering has been an official Democratic Party platform going back decades now. Maryland's own John Sarbanes sponsored and passed House Resolution 1, the For the People Act, that would end gerrymandering in all states. H.R. 1 passed Congress numerous times, only to die by filibuster in the Senate. These votes have been along party lines, with Democrats expending political capital and fighting to end gerrymandering in all states, and Republicans obstructing these efforts. Now, at President Trump's insistence, Republicans are trying to further gerrymander states that are already heavily gerrymandered in the middle of a census cycle when states do not usually redistrict. Trump and the GOP are trying their hardest to insulate from voters in the 2026 midterm election by giving themselves a structural advantage in upcoming elections. Democrats have two choices. We can do nothing or we can fight back. Doing nothing will curry no favor with either the GOP elected officials or the electorate and will be read as weakness by both. Fighting back will energize the electorate and discourage future GOP power grabs. The calculus is as simple as the decision should be for the Maryland General Assembly. I fully support the governor and the work of the redistricting committee. I encourage this committee to commit to redistricting and protect the votes and the voices of the Maryland electorate that you represent. Lastly, as a Hyattsville resident in a growing DC metropolitan area, I'm used to change. Over the last 6 years, I have switched from being represented by Steny Hoyer in Maryland 5 to Anthony Brown in Maryland 4 to currently being represented by Glenn Ivey in Maryland 4. I have felt adequately represented by both the various districts and members of Congress over this time, and I'm sure that any future changes.
Our next speaker is Jean Wen. Jean, there you go. We've got you.
Hi, how are you doing? Thank you so much for allowing me to comment today. My name is Jean Nguyen, and I'm a constituent of Olney, Maryland. I am a mom of 3 young children, and I'm taking time to comment in strong favor of redistricting for their future, for them, and for the longevity of our democracy. In 2020, Trump asked Georgia to find 11,780 votes to overturn a free and fair election in his favor. Georgia stood up for democracy and resignedly said, "No, sir." Now, Trump has asked state legislatures to jump and redistrict mid-decade. Many GOP-led legislatures have replied, "How high?" Presently, to my understanding, and it changes every day, there are 4 GOP-led legislators that have approved gerrymandered maps: Texas, Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio, 2 with maps in process, Florida, and 2 others that have considered tilting the 2026 midterm election in their favor. California and Utah countered. Virginia, Illinois, Colorado, New York, and Maryland are considering how they themselves may maneuver. Let me be clear. I am generally not in favor of gerrymandering. Whether Republican, Democrat, Independent, or firm believer in the spaghetti monster, most Americans agree that we all want free and fair elections. Gerrymandering disproportionately silences hard-fought, hard-won voting rights, especially within Black and Brown communities. However, over the last few months, I've watched in horror and dismay as the executive branch has overreached its authority and Congress and the Supreme Court has failed to act as guardrails. Due to this, I'm concerned that we are in danger of losing our democracy to an increasingly authoritarian leader. Authoritarian leaders license lawbreaking, investigate critics, retaliate with regulations, deploy military domestically, overreach through federal law enforcement, and finally, work within a democratic system so they or their leadership never have to leave. The same federal executive branch is now openly calling for states to redistrict mid-decade so that their party may crack, pack, and dilute dissent. We, the people, are the last guardrail. And for that reason, I ask you to consider redistricting as a counterbalance to the other states' manipulated maps. I would also like to ask why the redistricting conversation has not been placed on the December 16th special session legislative agenda. Thank you again for your time, and I appreciate the ability to comment on this matter.
All right. Thank you. Next up on our list is Kristen Cook. Kristen, you just received the panelist invite. Please accept and unmute.
Hi. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Kristen Cook, and I reside in Montgomery County. I'm on the steering committee for a nonprofit group called 350 MoCo, which works to get climate-friendly policies in the county. Anyhow, pardon my bluntness, but let's stop pretending this is a normal policy question. Trump is redrawing state right redrawing states right now to lock in a congressional majority. This is not about one state where we hope they'll hold off, so we hold off. We are already behind and getting crushed. Missouri, North Carolina, Florida, Ohio, and more. Plus, the Supreme Court is preparing to nuke the Voting Rights Act. Maryland is one of the few places that can respond. If we don't act, we're not neutral, we're complicit. And every elected official involved will eventually have to confront the tough question of, did they do everything in their power to fight back against Trump and protect those they are sworn to protect? I empathize with the feeling of safety that exists in the current maps. The uncertainty of the legal system can be scary, but I would remind you there is nothing stopping anyone from suing you on these maps right now. Every map is going to go to court. We know the risk, and we ask you anyways to take the chance. It's not a slam dunk either way, and that tells me it's worth the effort. Many smart people, even some on this call probably, were surprised at the 2022 ruling, and many think it was not grounded in Maryland law. Defend your constituents. Don't walk away because you're afraid of fighting this case on the merits in court. Maryland deserves leaders who fight for it, not leaders who flinch at the moment of maximum consequence. Redistrict Maryland and be a fighter. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mary Jane Monk. Mary Jane, please unmute.
I think I'm on now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, that's good. I just ran in the door. Okay. My name is Mary Jane Monk, and I am a member of the Howard County Indivisible. I work as the co-facilitator of the Defend Democracy team, and but I'm kind of speaking for myself here today. It's not like we took a big vote on everyone. I'm talking a lot of what we hear is the why of why we should do this. And I agree with some of it, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the how. I have to say, I'm not confident in this discussion because it's so complex, so many moving parts, but I do feel compelled to speak. The Route 32 corridor in Fort Meade area is one connected area. Thousands of people move back and forth every day for work at Fort Meade and NSA, the Applied Physics Lab, and the many contractors nearby. Families choose where to live based on schools and commute times, not based on what county line they happen to fall on. In daily life, the border really doesn't matter. The schools show this better than anything. So many kids in both counties have parents who work at Fort Meade or APL. Community events, after-school activities, pull from both sides of the county line. Kids grow up together, families interact with each other constantly, and the community is clear. You see the same thing with housing. If you look at neighborhoods in this area, they're all part of the same housing market. Builders treat them as one area, and the people who move there are looking at all of those neighborhoods together. They share the same traffic patterns, same job centers, etc. Route 32 is the connector that ties this whole region together. It's how people get to work, how families get kids to school, and how these neighborhoods stay connected. This corridor has grown around shared jobs, shared schools, and shared daily life. Because of that, it makes sense to keep these communities represented together. Splitting them apart on a map would break up an area that functions as one, and it needs a unified leadership to deal with things like transportation challenges or school crowding and the ongoing growth. I hope the committee takes into account how this community actually lives and interacts. Route 32 and Fort Meade bring us together, and our representation should reflect that reality. And I thank you so much for your time, and thank you for doing this work.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Barry O'Connell.
Barry, please unmute.
see me now?
Yes.
All right. I'd like to thank everybody, Deputy Secretary Fleckenstein, Senator Frosch, Chairman Wilson, and Ed, and everyone else, and Andrew. Listen, I want to say my feeling on this is very much about population equity. We need to focus on what's best for the people of Maryland. Now, we're in an unprecedented situation where we've never been up against something like this before. We're going to have our voting rights in Congress diminished by the actions of the Texas legislature. They shouldn't be interfering. These other states, North Carolina and the others, they shouldn't be interfering in Maryland's ability to take care of our citizens. So now we're in a situation where we need to amplify the voting power of our majority party. The 7-1 split, we should back the 7 and increase it to 8-0, because we're in a situation where after this is over and Trump goes away, then sure, Andy can run again. But we need to have fair play nationally. We need to correct distortions, because if we have our rights diminished by Texas, then it affects the ability of everyone in Maryland to get the services that they need from Congress. We also have to remember, this is the governor's duty. This isn't a matter of just doing it because he wants to. He has to. If he's leaving nobody behind in Maryland, he must do his job now, call for this, push it through, and we need to come up with a clean map bill and there's some good maps out there. I've seen a number of them. We need a clean map that can pass by the Supreme Court. It's got to be very carefully done. So please be careful on that, because with 5 Republicans and 2 Democrats on the Supreme Court, they're going to shoot us down if we don't do this right. They're honest people. I believe they'll treat us fairly, but we have to give them a good map. And I think it's our responsibility to the voters of Maryland to stand up, that the majority of people continue to have the voice that they deserve in Washington. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nathan Davies.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Davies. I'm a student at Salisbury University, and I'm speaking today on behalf of the Maryland Federation of College Republicans. I'm happy to be joining you from the very red 1st District of Maryland. We must remember that this fight is not about fair maps. It's not about representation. It is one piece of what is a national political show, and we all know that. Our governor is attempting to position himself on the national stage by joining the mid-cycle redistricting battle. But this is not Maryland's fight. This is not the responsibility of Maryland's elected officials. Yesterday, we all saw the decision in Indiana. I'm under the impression that some of you may have been very personally familiar with that decision. Even a red state with full Republican control refused to carry on the battle. Maryland certainly doesn't need to. Westmore's tough guy image had its effect. He got the publicity. Maryland joined the noise, but it's over. The national fight for redistricting is cooling, and I encourage all of you to accept that and to take the people of the 1st District out of the political crosshairs in this national messaging fight. When the time comes to debate truly fair maps, I look forward to advocating for a once again ruby red 6th District that isn't dipped into the DC spillover. Until then, let's table it. President Ferguson, I applaud your hesitation, and I trust that in the end you will fulfill your duty to Maryland as a true statesman. Thank you all for your time, and I wish you all a very Merry Christmas.
Thank you. The next speaker on our list is Shelley Posey. Shelley, I just sent you the panelist link.
Hello, I'm Shelley Posey, and I'm the leader of Indivisible Charles County, and I reside in Charles County. I support redistricting. This will ensure fair representation by adjusting district lines to reflect demographic shifts and community needs. This process promotes competitive elections, diverse legislative perspectives, and maintains a responsive and accountable government. Republicans in other states are unfairly shifting balance. We must make sure Maryland redistricts fairly to compensate for national trends. Maryland's population and demographics have changed, and it's important to redistrict now off cycle. Representative Andy Harris's voting record aligns with Trump's policy, not with his constituents' interest. Harris's unwavering support for Trump's extreme right agenda, which observers note is detrimental to his district and harmful to all his constituents and to Maryland as a whole. The majority of Harris's district consists of a combination of Democrats, independents, and non-affiliated voters. The statement that Republicans are in the majority is false. All of his constituents will experience financial harm by his adherence to MAGA policy. He continues to prioritize Trump's agenda over his own district constituents. Reviewing elected officials' voting records on constituent affecting issues reveals their priorities and commitment to the community, aiding informed voter decisions and promoting accountability. But Maryland cannot wait any longer to help the residents have fair representation. Trump's tariffs, supported by Andy Harris, significantly impacted both eastern and western shores of his district. The agricultural sector, a cornerstone of Maryland's first district shore economy, will face challenges from policy shifts enacted by Trump. Environmental regulations important for preserving the Chesapeake Bay's health will be impacted by changes in federal oversight. Small businesses in the region will experience economic fluctuations due to adjustments in trade and economic policies. Local communities will see effects on their infrastructure funding. These measures have influenced the cost of imported goods, which in turn affects local businesses and consumers. The agricultural sector has experienced adjustments due to changes in trade dynamics. Furthermore, the tariffs have prompted discussions about supply chain resilience and the encouragement of domestic production. Overall, these trade policies have introduced a period of difficult economic challenges for the region and state. The argument that suggests more Republicans may win over districts due to redistricting overlooks the fact that there may very well be moderate conservative Republicans, like the former Senator Mathias, that would bring back respectful discord and debate for the benefit of all constituents. We can all see the fracturing and division in the MAGA world, and continued extremism is in the way of unifying our state and country. Districts should represent fairly all constituents residing there, and everyone in Maryland is ready for moderation and
Our next panelist is Zach Frink. After Zach, we have Joseph, I think is Juji, Travis Simon, Max Sokol, Erica Puentes, and Michael Huggins. Zach, please unmute.
Good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good evening. My name is Zach Frink. I was raised in Harford County and currently live in Hartford. I'm here to speak on my own accord and in strong support of redistricting. I also want to provide some context on how Hartford aligns more with parts of Baltimore County and Western counties than the Eastern Shore. First, the Baltimore Regional Public Transit System dedicates more than 100 stops in Hartford County, with very few stops east of the Susquehanna River. Within that corridor, there's a clear distinction between north of Route 40 and south of Route 40. Here are some goals in a transportation plan put out by the Baltimore Regional Transportation Board. Add additional MTA commuter bus service from Hartford County to downtown Baltimore and Harbor East. Reverse commute route from Baltimore to Aberdeen Proving Ground. Install shelters, and extend US 40 commuter service to connect with Hartford Transit. Second, the Maryland State Data Center groups Hartford as part of the Baltimore region. The center finds more similarities with Baltimore County than with the Eastern Shore. This underscores the economic connection Hartford County, especially south of Route 40, has to Eastern Baltimore County rather than Eastern Shore counties. Aberdeen Proving Ground functions as a major engine for tech and research. APG generates more than $14.5 billion in contracts and sends nearly $2 billion of that to Maryland firms. Its impact has helped bring more than 100 defense contractors into Hartford. APG is an economic center with priorities that look very different from Eastern Shore communities. Finally, environmental and land use planning adds further evidence. Watershed management plans group large portions of Harford County with Baltimore County due to shared water bodies, storm systems, and Chesapeake Bay tributaries. These joint management areas are a strong indicator of functional regional identity. These reasons, in addition to many more, highlight the unique nature of Harford County that has many economic and regional similarities with Western Shore counties. Harford County deserves representation that is able to effectively advocate and support such a complex region. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up on our list is Joseph Guji. Joseph, I just sent you the panelist link. It should be coming on now.
You hear me?
Yes.
All right. My name is Joseph Goge. Thank you to the Advisory Commission for hosting these meetings. I'm a resident of Prince George's County, Legislative District 23, Congressional District 4. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. I'm a husband. I'm a father of 2 young children. I'm also a veteran of the U.S. Marines who was deployed on behalf of this nation. I'm a graduate of the University of Maryland in College Park, and I've resided in this state since 2009. Governor Moore has stated that the purpose of this commission is to, quote, engage Marylanders across the state, receive public comment, and provide recommendations to ensure our congressional maps are representative and fair. While that does have a great ring to it, Americans across the country and Maryland residents specifically know what is really going on. The governor is trying to distract Maryland residents from the various issues that are going on within the state. 3 minutes is not even close to enough time to mention all the issues, including sky-high electricity prices, out-of-control crime in some areas, bad schools, and ever-increasing taxes. However, if redistricting is where the governor feels it is important to direct resources and time, I do encourage this commission to recommend Maryland create new districts. But rather than waste precious resources and time towards tipping the lone remaining Republican-held congressional seat towards Democrats, do it with the goal of actually having non-Democrat voters represented. Well over 40% of the state of Maryland is registered as either Republican or independent. This population is not represented and has not been represented for a long time. No one expects complete fairness, but to pretend as if Maryland is not well beyond gerrymandered towards Democrats, and then to go even further would be shameful and wasteful. Not only that, it would also be detrimental to the state. As stated in the book of Proverbs, chapter 27, verse 17, iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. A completely partisan Maryland where only Democrats are represented does not strengthen Maryland as a whole. In fact, one-party dominance weakens the whole state. To grow and serve its constituents better, Maryland's representatives should truly be representative of the whole of Maryland, to challenge each other's ideas vehemently, and to arrive at the best available solution for constituents. I thank you again for your time.
Our next speaker is Max Sokol.
Hi there. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Max Sokol. I'm a resident of Silver Spring. I wanted to talk about the impact in my community. Of the 20 households on my block, at least 10 have been directly impacted by the illegal federal firings and layoffs that we've seen under this administration. All throughout my neighborhood and here in Montgomery County, people are desperate for hope for the future. Some of my neighbors invested 20 or 30 years into public service just to have it all ripped away. by an administration that's trampling over our laws and our Constitution. There are reasons to have hope. Many of us are celebrating today the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia after the heroic work of Senator Chris Van Hollen to free him. When Senator Van Hollen demanded his release, many people said it was impossible and a waste of time, and thank God Senator Van Hollen did not listen to the fear-mongering. We once again have a choice as Marylanders between fear and hope. And so on behalf of all my neighbors here in Montgomery County, where people are suffering so much, I'm imploring all of you to choose hope, to stand up for the right of the state legislature to draw fair maps, rather than giving into fear. The courts or the federal government will interfere in some way and overstep their boundaries. Right now, we need leadership. We need members of Maryland's leadership bodies to step up, as Governor Moore has said. Thank you to Governor Moore for modeling what it looks like to lead with hope, to Congressman Raskin and Congressman Hoyer, and the numerous other leaders around our state who are calling for a fair redistricting process. Last but not least, for everybody who might be watching and listening, I want to encourage you to visit redistrictmd.com, where you can find resources on this whole process and find out where your senator stands. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Erica Puentes. Erica, I just sent you the panelist link.
Good afternoon, Commission members. My name is Erika Puentes. I'm a proud Baltimorean, born, raised, and living here in Maryland, and I'm respectfully urging our Maryland leaders to redraw our maps for the sake of our communities. Although I am a Democrat, I'm not here in the name of party politics. Our Senate needs to move on redistricting for the sake of our communities, not party, for the sake of people's livelihoods, plain and simple. For many of us, it's a life or death situation. I know that you all know this is true on many levels, but let me just talk about one. I recently had a conversation with a senator who is open to the idea of redistricting, but is unsure of whether or not moving from a 7-1 map to an 8-0 map would make a difference to him and everyone here. I say it absolutely does. And let me tell you, for the 200,000 Marylanders, that's 200,000 Marylanders who are going to lose their health coverage because of the Republican budget package, it is very much a life or death situation. This spring, in summer, I stood alongside constituents from Andy Harris's district, constituents who were shut out from the democratic process. In April, they went to his Bel Air office to share their stories of how Medicaid has been a lifeline for their families, relatives, and patients. These district members then went to Washington on May 21st to ask him to vote no and to protect health care. But just hours later, Republicans rammed through the big, beautiful bill with a 215 to 214 vote, with Andy Harris's voting present. His vote was a major reason this bill advanced. Imagine he would have listened to his own constituents and become the one vote that could have slowed this process down or stopped it completely for those constituents who are working hard and unsuccessfully to get his attention. And for the 200,000 Marylanders who are losing their health coverage, that one vote could have very much made a difference. But what types of hopes do we have for Harris anyway? This is the guy who belongs to the team of Republicans that engineered the most insane, non-transparent process that we have seen for a federal budget package. They rammed this package through in 3 months, didn't tell the public or the Democratic colleagues about hearings, and when they had hearings, some were held purposely in the middle of the night. The public could not attend. Progressive Maryland healthcare leaders and other local community members were outside on the Capitol steps at 2 o'clock in the morning, alerting people that these Republicans are in there behind closed doors working on gutting healthcare for all Americans. This was an underhanded process. And yes, Andy Harris, with his present vote and later his yes vote, yes, this one congressman played a lead role in passing one of the most devastating, consequential, and un-American bills that we have seen in recent history. Healthcare workers, families enrolled in Medicaid, seniors in nursing homes in his district. These are the voices that he ignored in order to ram a bill through that the vast majority of Marylanders did not support. Why should one man, one seat, Andy Harris, have this outsized power over the vast majority of Marylanders? And if some of our senators are still wondering whether one seat is worth it, I want them to consider that the 200,000 Marylanders who are going to lose their health coverage are definitely worth it. Thank you, Commission members.
Our next speaker is Michael Huggins.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Michael Huggins. I'm the Deputy Senior Director of Policy and Government Affairs at Color of Change. I am also a resident of Hyattsville, Maryland. I'm here to call on our elected leaders to move forward with a redistricting proposal and save our democracy. Color of Change is the nation's largest online racial justice organization. We are committed to making sure the nation is a less harmful place for Black people. At the behest of President Trump, several states, including Texas, Missouri, North Carolina, and Florida, have signed off or have indicated that they will be working on new congressional maps designed to help Republicans gain more seats in Congress in the 2026 midterm elections. This is an attack on our democracy. Color of Change has joined a coalition to demand the governors and legislative leaders of Democratic states to protect Black political power by resisting this scheme to gerrymander their way to a permanent majority. Governor Moore recently urged this commission to hear from Marylanders on the need for new congressional maps. And in his announcement, he said, President Donald Trump and his allies are trying to rig the system and are handpicking Republican states to go through redistricting processes. He can't defend these policies, so instead, he's just changing the rules of the game. This is an assault on the most basic promise of our democracy. And if we're serious about protecting our democracy, we cannot and will not sit back and watch. So, we are calling on our Democratic leaders to stand up, fight back, and protect the people. As I mentioned before, Color of Change is a part of a coalition of next generation civil rights and democracy organizations to demand redistricting ahead of the 2026 election cycle. So we need Maryland to protect our vote, our resources, and our power. We need you all to stand up for the people in Maryland, including myself. We need you to stand up for the promise of democracy for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up on our list is Larry Stafford. Larry, I just sent you the panelist link.
And then after Larry, it is Austin Prochaska, Barbara Arnwine, Matthew Dellinger, and Andrew Kubczynski.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Larry Stafford Jr., Executive Director of Progressive Maryland, and I am here because this redistricting effort is not optional. It is necessary for the survival of real democracy in our country. Through my work on the board of our national partner, People's Action and Acorn International, I've spoken with organizers from countries that live through democratic backsliding. They told us something that we cannot ignore. In places like Turkey, elections never stopped. What stopped was their meaning. The system was bent slowly, deliberately, until votes existed, but power no longer moved. Their warning was clear. When people in power tilt the field and institutions hesitate, democracy arose in plain sight. And we're seeing warning signs here at home. Federal decisions in recent years hit Maryland hard. From $280 million lost in state tax revenue due to federal workforce cuts to $400 million pulled from education funding, and the loss of 15,000 to 29,000 federal jobs sending shockwaves to our economy. These are not isolated choices. They're a part of a broader political strategy to consolidate power and weaken states that do not fall in line. Now, some people would point to recent news out of Indiana where Republican leaders declined to redraw their map under pressure from Donald Trump as proof that the threat has passed. That reading is dangerously incomplete. Indiana simply blocked an additional Republican gain. It did not undo the structural advantages Republicans have already locked in elsewhere. Some have argued that drawing new maps risks court intervention or an even worse outcome. But that argument does not hold up. Representatives Steny Hoyer and Jamie Raskin, one of our most respected constitutional authorities Maryland has produced, addressed this directly. They made it clear that the Maryland Constitution vests redistricting power in the General Assembly. Courts do not seize that authority to impose partisan outcomes. They offer guidance and the legislature responds. The idea that a fair map would be struck down, our existing map rejected, and then replaced by an extreme court-drawn partisan map has no basis in precedent or constitutional logic. Our current map has survived multiple cycles without challenge. If adjustments were ever required, the General Assembly would still hold the pen. At a moment when national forces are actively trying to tilt the electoral field before the next election, Maryland has a responsibility to defend democracy, not with.
Our next speaker is Barbara Arnwine. Barbara, it looks, has declined, so we'll move on to Matthew Dellinger.
Oh, it looks like
Hello?
Barbara. It looks like
Wait,
Barbara
hold
just
on.
accepted.
Oh,
Yes,
Barbara just joined.
I just got it. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. To all members of the commission, thank you for this opportunity to testify. In holding these hearings, you have exceeded the cynical exclusion of the voices of Texans, Missourians, and others who were denied this opportunity by their legislatures. I am Attorney Barbara Arnwine, president and founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition, TJC, a national racial justice nonpartisan nonprofit. I am a proud resident of Prince George's County. Since 2011, I have been on the front lines of the battle against vicious voter suppression nationwide and against those laws, including redistricting that is racially or partisanly gerrymandered. TJC does active voter education, voter ruralization, and voter protection to protect Black, Brown, youth, and all vulnerable voters from these attacks by anti-democracy forces. History will recall and examine this moment of unprecedented assault on the foundational pillars of our democracy and critically how those in governance and the citizenry responded. Against the American tradition of one person, one vote, Donald Trump is seeking to sabotage the 2026 elections through urging GOP-controlled state houses and legislatures to engage in mid-decade partisan and racial gerrymandering towards the goal of one-party rule. Unfortunately, his demands have been answered, and numerous states are already engaged in this process of racial and partisan gerrymandering, and there's a deliberate destruction of Black political power. At this moment, it is imperative that the Maryland General Assembly act to protect our state, our nation, and our democracy from this anti-democracy attack by enacting needed redistricting. We know with certainty that the only institution that can save us is ourselves. The Supreme Court has abdicated its role and will not protect us. The Department of Justice has abandoned this role and will not protect us. The GOP-dominated U.S. Congress will not protect us. Instead, the power to save the moment and our democracy lies in the hands of you, the General Assembly. We urge you to move with all due speed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Matthew Dellinger. Matthew, I just sent you the panelist link. Matthew, you're still unmuted.
Hello, I'm Dellinger from Howard County, and I would just like to first of all, I fully support redistricting. During normal times, I would be all in favor of proportional representation across the state. However, we're currently not in normal times. We're at a time where Republicans have decided back in 2010 that they were going to weaponize redistricting through Project Red Map. They decided in 2021 that they were going to oppose independent redistricting commissions in H.R. 1. And most recently, they've decided that they're going to attempt to aggressively redistrict red states across the country in Texas, Missouri, North Carolina, Florida, and others. Republicans have made their decision that They want red states to be all or nothing, and they want blue states to be proportional in order to gain complete control over the House of Representatives and complete control of Washington. And it's up to Democrats to fight back by playing by their rules. It's winner take all in blue states as well. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Delegate Dylan Baylor.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Delegate Dylan Baylor, and I'm proud to represent Annapolis in the General Assembly. Thank you for your commitment to hearing the voices of Marylanders on this critical issue. I come to you today as a member of the House of Delegates, where I do represent Annapolis, but also as an Annapolitan and a concerned Marylander. To be clear, I and many of my constituents have a strong support in redistricting that allows us to fight back against the erosion of our democracy nationwide, but one that also reflects the true realities of our communities. The communities on the Eastern and Western Shore share a variety of cultural, economic, and social connections, and those connections range from shared economic priorities to shared transportation priorities to even shared cultural priorities like our love for the Chesapeake Bay. And as we move forward in this effort, our districts should reflect the practical ties between our districts. But lastly, and I just want to leave you with this, I'm reminded through this process of the Maryland 400 and how we got our name, the Old Line State. And, you know, we got that name because the Maryland 400 held the line so that way General Washington could escape and fight another day in the Revolutionary War. And, you know, in that, it helped create and preserve a soon-to-be democracy. And I hope that we can continue to live up to our mantra of being the Old Line State and fight to preserve democracy once again. So thank you all for your work and best of luck with the rest of the hearing.
Thank you.
Next up is Daryl Jones. You should be joining now. Okay.
I can promote our next speaker, Pastor Stephen Tillett.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Tillett. I'm a resident in Severn in the 32nd Legislative District, pastor of Asbury Broadneck United Methodist Church in Annapolis, and am a retired chaplain, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Air Force. Been a Maryland resident for 33 years. In 1780, John Adams, one of the founding fathers of our country and our second president, shared his concerns about a political system limited to two parties. He said, "There is nothing which I dread so much as a division of the republic into two parties, division of the republic into two great parties, each arranged under its leader and concerning measures in opposition to each other. This, in my humble apprehension, is to be dreaded as the greatest political evil under our Constitution. Now our country is divided into two great parties, and the real rub is that the two parties that have a chokehold on our constitutional republic are not embedded in the Constitution nor mandated by it. In fact, they are two private corporations, the RNC and the DNC, that attempt to order our political life largely according to whatever they deem is in their best interest of their corporation/party. We find ourselves in a situation where there is a federal misadministration for whom the Constitution is considered a suggestion at best. And they have decided, in order to secure political advantage for themselves for 2 more years in the Congress, they're going to engage in mid-decade redistricting. This often results intentionally and with malice aforethought in the disenfranchisement of minority voters and communities. Now, Democrats can't try foul as if this is something we haven't done. Indeed, in the state of Maryland, a judge rejected a redistricting map a few years ago, saying that one of the districts looked like a broken-winged pterodactyl and ordered the General Assembly to fix it. None of this is in the best interests of voters, including the fastest growing voting bloc in the country, the quarter to a third of voters who are unaffiliated voters. Texas, which is already gerrymandered to the hilt, is trying to steal 5 more seats from voters, granting themselves 30 seats to the Democrats' 8 seats, even though there are 1.5 million less registered Republicans than registered Democrats in Texas. California has decided to match that energy to take those 5 seats back. Governor Wes Moore is seeking to further insulate the nation as a whole and the next Congress from the most craven redistricting efforts probably in the history of our country. I support Governor Moore's efforts to meet the moment and play her role in protecting this country by redrawing our districts to face the threat and the challenge being imposed upon us at the national level.
Our next speaker is Michael Jankowski. Michael, I just sent you the panelist link.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, great. My name is Michael Jankowski. I am a resident of Baltimore County, Baltimore born and bred, and also a retired Baltimore County public school middle school math teacher. So I want to thank you all for your commitment to this commission. I've been here all 4 sessions, and I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you. Unfortunately, in reading the banner today, it sounds like some decisions have already been made about this redistricting, and I'd like to still get my 2 cents in because this is what democracy looks like. So I've heard a lot of arguments, especially from Democrats, about us taking the higher moral road, that the 2 wrongs don't make a right. I mean, I'm sure you've heard it before from your parents about, well, if Johnny's going to jump off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge too? And I get that. I get that argument. But let's look at 30,000 feet. Let's look at this from a larger perspective. And that's that our democracy is under attack. That's what's happening. And it's happening by bullying. And you know this is happening. It's happening. Law firms are being bullied. Colleges are being bullied. Students are being bullied. Representatives are being bullied. States are being bullied. That's what's going on. So I'm going to bring it down from 30,000 feet and bring it down back down to earth as a middle school math teacher. Let me see. Yeah, as a middle school math teacher. Kids would come to me, Mr. J, I'm being bullied. I'm really being bullied. Could be psychologically, could be physical. We've got to do something about that. Turn it over to the administration, turn it over to the counselors. You got to do something. You got to do something. Because if you don't do something, it's just going to get worse. It's going to get a lot worse. So we would pursue those avenues, and sometimes they would work, sometimes they wouldn't. But at least we were doing something. And now I'll speak from personal experience. If you're physically being bullied, right? I would never tell the kids to do this. But from personal experience, if somebody slaps you in the face, you know what you got to do? You got to slap them back. Because if you don't slap them back, it's going to keep happening and happening over again. So once again, that's from personal experience. Texas is slapping us in the face. Missouri, Kansas, Florida, you name it, we're getting slapped in the face. And if we don't do anything, it's just going to keep happening. I understand, Senator Ferguson, your concerns, but it's a benefit risk. Might not work, but I got to tell you, it's worth the risk. If you're getting slapped, I'll say it again, you gotta slap back. Hopefully you will support this measure. And I thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it.
Next up on our list is Daryl Jones. Daryl, I just sent you the panelist link.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Daryl Jones, and I'm the co-leader of the Transformative Justice Coalition, a national 501c3 organization whose principal purpose is voting rights, social justice all across America. I'm also a Maryland resident, lifelong Maryland resident, resides in Anne Arundel County. I was the first African-American male in our county's over 300-year history to be elected to serve on Anne Arundel County Council. I'm also the general counsel for the Caucus of African-American Leaders of Maryland. Redistricting and gerrymandering is having a disparate impact on the African-American community. When democracy has a cold, the African-American community is struck with laryngitis. It becomes forcefully silenced. Proof? North Carolina has redistricted and gerrymandered a heavy African-American opportunity district to dilute their vote and their voting power and silence the collective cohesive voting power of African-American voters. Further proof? Missouri. Congressman Emmanuel Cleaver's seat, one of Missouri's 2 Black members of Congress, has had his district gerrymandered and redistricted to make it a Republican opportunity district to silence African-American voting power. How about Texas? We're all familiar with what has happened in the districts of Representative Jasmine Crockett, Representative Al Green, and 3 other Democratic opportunity districts, done to silence Black and brown voters. The impact of the national movement in redistricting will be to undemocratically select a Congress that does not reflect the overwhelming majority of Americans living in those states, and ultimately empower a minority party in a democracy. Maryland has the opportunity, and I would urge and argue the obligation, to stand up for democracy and to protect our vote. I contend that Maryland's role in protecting our vote is larger than Maryland. It's an American issue. Just like Harriet Tubman's role was not limited to freeing slaves in Maryland, just like Rosa Parks' role was not limited to standing up for Alabama or Montgomery. Attorney Phil Hunter, now a senior citizen in Harford County, Maryland, resident, as a teenager, too young to vote, marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Alabama in what is now known as Bloody Sunday in 1965. Alabama standing up not just for voting rights for Selma, Alabama, but standing up for voting rights all across America. The redistricting fight in Maryland is our Edmund Pettus Bridge moment. We must meet the moment, Maryland. I encourage the commission to issue a finding that is favorable to redistricting in Maryland to fight back voting power dilution throughout our country. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sharon Blake. Sharon, please be sure to unmute.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon, honorable members of the Governor's Redistricting Advisory Commission. As stated, I am Sharon Y. Blake. I'm a lifelong Democrat and Marylander. Presently, I'm a Baltimore County resident living in Catonsville, District 10. I'm a retired public school educator of 43 years, serving Baltimore City public school students, families, and communities. As a Democrat, it is natural for us to want to fight, given the disregard for the rule of law and disrespectful culture of our nation's politics. However, I want to go on record opposing the mid-cycle redistricting proposed by Governor Westmore. I agree with Senate President Bill Ferguson. Mid-cycle redistricting is far too risky, which could, quote, lead to unintended consequences that could give Donald Trump another 1 or 2 of Maryland congressional seats, end quote. Maryland is vastly different from other states, especially that of California. If we were to redistrict in Maryland, the Republicans would move with a lawsuit. a lawsuit which would go before the Maryland's highest court, the Supreme Court of Maryland. The Supreme Court of Maryland is composed of 7 judges. Republican Governor Larry Hogan appointed 5 of the 7 judges. It is fair to say, given the authority the Supreme Court of Maryland has relative to ruling on and drawing up mid-cycle redistricting maps, redistricting is too great of a risk in the hands of a Hogan-appointed court, and the consequences are too great if Donald Trump ends up with 1 or more of Maryland's congressional seats. Moreover, if the lawsuit proceeds to the Supreme Court, we know the Supreme Court of the United States would most likely rule in favor of the Republicans, giving Donald Trump more Republican congressional seats in the great state of Maryland. Once again, I want to be on record in opposition to participating in the high-risk movement of mid-cycle redistricting in Maryland.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next up is Deborah Williams. Deborah, you should have just received your panelist link.
In Maryland, we must listen to the majority and be willing to initiate redistricting actions when and if needed. This must also include as yet unidentified offensive or defensive strategies to keep us safe. My name is Deborah Gill Williams. My 69-year Maryland backstory is provided in my written testimony at the end of the document. It's a complementary to my testimony because I have much experience in the state of Maryland as a resident. I am not a unique Marylander by any measure. Everyone I know and talk to is at least one part discouraged, disenfranchised, annoyed, and or just plain angry. This federal administration is playing dirty and illegally and embroiling our state government in an unnecessary and wasteful grab for power. We must be willing to show up for that fight now. We are not going away. We are involved, passionate and compassionate women and men with compelling stories, focusing on the needs of Maryland and rooted in the community every day. Marylanders are very knowledgeable about the mistakes this country is making. We are elected representatives, parents, other adults, teens, children, civil servants, activists, advocates. We understand so much about finance, taxes, the economy, the environment, justice, science, education, healthcare, food security, business, employment. We don't feel good. And this isn't about what it will cost in dollars. It's already costing us dearly. This is about our future selves and the next generations. We want to know, follow, and work with our Maryland state government. We need you, and we appreciate you. And you need us, the willing and faithful, the people who work behind the scenes to make sure you are supported in your work. We've all been here all along, and we need you to listen to us. Don't push us away, gaslight us, ignore us, or patronize us. Do not respect or minimize our volunteer service, leadership, and our great care for this state. Our numbers and voices are rising, and we are right. Maryland government must stand for something bigger than self-interest, political posturing, grandstanding in any of the rural or suburban or urban counties that may be driving some of this decision-making. If you don't stand with us, a state full of amazing public servants and servant leaders, you are not only disrespecting us, you're not meeting the moment. We want to be ready to redistrict and be prepared and nimble for unforeseen mayhem and madness. The times call for cool heads, smart strategy, grit, resilience, and compassion. I thank the advisory committee for encouraging Marylanders.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Nelson Simpson.
Mr. Chair, just very briefly, the last speaker referenced written testimony, and I have not received that. Do we have written testimony available?
I'm sorry, let me hop in here. There is a batch of emails that was sent out, and it should have been sent to your offices. If it has not, I will get all of them sent over to you.
Okay, thank you.
It was sent at 3:50, Bill.
Okay. Thank you.
Nelson, you can go ahead.
All right, thank you. My name is Nelson Simone. I'm from Rockville, Maryland. I'm in Congressman Raskin's district. I want to thank Chair Also Brooks and members of the commission for the opportunity to testify. I'm also an immigrant. My family moved here when I was 3 years old. My parents made us a life, first in PG County and now in Montgomery County. Every Marylander deserves fair and equal representation, especially minority communities that have historically been shortchanged. While Republican-led states are currently gerrymandering these communities out of political power, Maryland has the opportunity to ensure that their voices, our voices, and our votes are properly represented. I feel confident this work is being approached thoughtfully and responsibly. Constitutional expert and Maryland Congressman Jamie Raskin has said that, quote, "The prospect of someone somewhere filing a baseless lawsuit has never deterred us from doing our jobs and doing what is right for the people of Maryland, and it should not deter us now." There is no legitimate legal barrier preventing Maryland from updating its maps now. Despite Senator Ferguson's concerns, there's no indication that race is driving the process. This is about making sure the maps reflect real communities on the ground. Our state is rapidly changing, and this effort is a chance to make our democracy more inclusive, representative of our population today, and stronger at a time when other states are moving in the opposite direction. Doing nothing puts Maryland at risk of falling behind in protecting fair representation, especially at this current moment. Ensuring that every voice is heard and every vote counts is not partisan. It's a fundamental moral obligation in a functioning democracy. And Maryland must take this step towards creating a freer and fairer society. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our list is Catherine Fisher. Catherine, I'll give you a few more seconds to accept the panelist link. Oh, it says you're joining them. Okay, we'll actually move on to the next one. Christopher Burnett, give me one moment. Christopher, I just sent you the panelist link.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this afternoon. My name is Chris Burnett, and I'm running for Congress in Maryland's 6th Congressional District. I decided to run after serving 22 years on active duty in the Marine Corps as a lawyer. I arrived in CD6 coming off of my 5th deployment on orders to the Pentagon. When I arrived, I realized that this is where we wanted to make our home. I didn't have a chance to choose where I wanted to live for nearly 25 years. So when we arrived, this is where we wanted to make our home. And I started to pay attention to what was going on in the neighborhood, what was going on in the community. And as my retirement approached, I looked for new ways to serve my country, a country that I loved. I deployed 5 times for, sacrificed nearly 6 years of my life away from my family to defend. And as I started looking at the possibility of running for office, I was told to run as a Republican was a waste of time, that there was absolutely no reason to bother wasting your time running in a state that does not care about your voice or your concerns. So as I started to research that further, I realized that living in Western Maryland, living in CD6, I lived in a district that had been heavily gerrymandered. And despite those warnings, as my retirement approached, I decided I was going to run for Congress. I believe in our system of government. I believe that every vote should count and that where ideas prevail, that's what should derive an outcome in an election, not politicians drawing arbitrary lines. However, I find myself more concerned than ever as I listen to the testimony here that we seem to be drawing some sort of justification for actions based on outcomes that we don't like or agreements that we can't seem to reconcile with our personal beliefs. But that's how our system works. We don't cheat in order to gain an advantage. And I think Republicans and Democrats are guilty of this. And I'll end with this. I'm running for Congress because I believe in our system. I believe in being a voice for Western Maryland. And I believe that our system is the best in the world. That things here are not perfect, but I can tell you we are the beacon on the hill. And I fought 5 times to maintain that. And I hope as the country watches what Maryland is doing, we lead by example. We do the right thing for the right reason. The shortcut here is to come up with some misconstrued moral justification to defend what we're calling a national issue, when in fact this is leading by example, trying to address what is unfair and ensuring that all voices are heard. I strongly encourage you to not proceed with redistricting and come up with some sort of a solution for all Maryland.
Our next speaker is Brenda Thiem or Thiem. Apologize, mispronouncing that. Brenda, please unmute.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Good evening to the commission members. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you on this evening regarding redistricting. I'm Dr. Brenda Cham. That's how you pronounce my last name, Cham, and I live in Washington County, Maryland. My input to considering redistricting is that we not pursue down this avenue. We're all aware of the fact that representation for Maryland and Washington, D.C. leans very partisan with the Democrat Party. Although I live in a very conservative part of our state, representation of the issues that are important to Western Marylanders are invisible. Quite frankly, they're non-existent. The governor and elected leaders cannot move in a fashion to consider redistricting because other states are doing it, but rather lead in a way that's purposeful, that's intentional to make our state more livable. Republicans cannot be disenfranchised. I was raised by a divorced mom of 5 children. I recall asking her if we could do this or that as children, and she would often reply, no. As children, we'd often reply, but Mary, Mark, Sue, or John are doing it. Their mom let them do it. And my mom's consistent reply would be, if Mary, Mark, Sue, and John jumped off a bridge, are you going to do it too? I never understood what that meant until I got older. It simply means just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean you need to do it too. To the governor, my mom's lessons would be very applicable to this situation. Just because other states are redistricting doesn't mean Maryland needs to jump on the bandwagon to do so. As a Republican, we are already gerrymandered and we're outnumbered in the state of Maryland, and we don't receive the fair representation because of the maps. Mid-cycle redistricting of maps is a bad idea. Doing so would have negative repercussions, and Marylanders will lose all faith in how elected officials in Annapolis govern our state. Thank you so very much for your time and have a great evening.
Thank you. Next up on our list is Ralph Cyrus. Ralph, I just sent you the panelist link.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
we can. Alrighty, my name is Ralph Cyrus. I'm a longtime resident of Prince George's County. My first efforts into politics as a high school senior was advocating for the independent redistricting commissions here in Maryland, as well as in North Carolina, where my family is traditionally from in Greensboro. While some efforts in Maryland were successful, North Carolina was not right where my family is in Greensboro. It has been split through by partisan committees in favor of Republicans and North Carolina. And it has been, not only has it been partisan gerrymandering, but more importantly, it has been effectively racially gerrymandered. That Black representation in North Carolina, it has been rapidly diminished. I say this as someone who is in favor of independent commissions. The experiment of state by state, one time implementation of independent commissions has failed. The only way to have a successful implementation of fair maps is through a nationwide effort. And that is why we must redistrict here in mid decade here in Maryland to increase the number of Democrats in the House. This current composition of Congress has shown that they're not only are they not willing to take on this issue, they're not willing to govern at all. They do not care about democratic representation. They do not care about the maintenance of democracy, and they do not even care about the standard operations of governance. I urge this commission, I urge Governor Moore, and I urge the state legislature to take up the effort of getting rid of Andy Harris's district itself, who has also never been a champion of democracy, because in DC, in DC himself, he has always been a champion of diminishing local governance in DC and has never been a fair champion of states' rights. So I urge the commission to go ahead with efforts to increase the amount of Democratic representation in Congress. And then when there is a composition in Congress who is willing to take on that issue, they can work on the myriad of options that are available, such as was available in the For the People Act 4 years ago. Thank you so much for listening to me, and have a great day.
Thank
Our
you.
next speaker is Tamalin Truitt. Please be sure to unmute. There you go.
Hello, I'm from District 1, and I'm proud to be from District 1. And this is such an obvious argument to me, or obvious position, because in Maryland, there are 68% Democrats and 32% Republicans. But currently, the gerrymandering of the Democrat maps in the state of Maryland has resulted in 88% Democrat representation and 12% Republican representation. This is unacceptable. And for this commission, for the governor to be considering removing the 12% Republican representation would be a horrific injustice, especially when the whole purpose is supposed to be fair representation. So erasing the Republican voice in Maryland would be erasing democracy. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thank you.
Next up is Ann Telma. And I just sent you a panelist link.
After Anne, we have Brigitte Mulliken and Briege Dumais.
And you can go ahead.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to testify tonight. I am a longtime Maryland resident, and I ask that you please do not gerrymander the Maryland legislative districts to eliminate the one Republican member, Dr. Andy Harris, that we have in the Maryland congressional delegation. If anything, Republican, independent, and unaffiliated voters are already underrepresented in Maryland or not represented at all. Redistricting now to favor Democratic voters yet more is not in the interest of many Maryland voters who are not at all represented. As Michelle Obama encouraged at the Democratic Convention in Philadelphia in 2016, go high. We will have the strongest government when multiple viewpoints are represented and considered. Lead by having the best ideas and the best solutions to the problems facing our society, not by damaging the integrity of our government by vindictively redrawing the legislative map, district map, midterm. Thank you for listening to my testimony.
Our next speaker is Brigitte Mulliken. And please be sure to unmute.
Okay.
You're good.
Hello. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I tried last time, but I was in the car and I hit the wrong button. I hit decline instead of accept. Thank you for this process. First of all, I'm Brigitte Mulliken, and I'm a 60-year resident of Rockville, Maryland. I'm a taxpayer for 58 years in the Montgomery County, Maryland District 8. I'm a naturalized citizen, and I take citizenship very serious and politics very serious. And I just want to say this. Governor Moore's request to redraw Maryland's congressional boundaries is unfair and clearly political. He should stop trying to blame Donald Trump for the redistricting issue. Maryland currently has only one Republican representative out of 8. The governor's proposal would eliminate the only Republican district we have, effectively silencing the voices of 38% of Maryland voters who are Republicans like myself. As I said, I'm a naturalized citizen. I take this serious. The courts already ruled on Maryland maps in 2022, which you've heard before. Reopening this issue now undermines voter confidence, stability, and the fairness in our elections. Redistricting should never be used as a political weapon. Maryland voters deserve balanced and fair representation, not gerrymandering that favors one party. Having a different opinion about how we want to be represented fairly is not an assault on American democracy, freedom, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, or the rule of law. It is a legitimate part of civic participation. I encourage that the Commission do not redistrict our congressional maps. And thank you for listening for all the different views. It's very, very interesting. Good evening.
Thank you.
Next up on our list is Briege Dumais. I just sent you the panelist link.
Greetings, commissioners. Thank you for holding this hearing. My name is Briege Dumais. I am a resident of Maryland Congressional District 1 on the Western Shore, and I am the political coordinator for 1199 SEIU United Healthcare Workers East. We are the largest healthcare workers union in the nation, with 10,000 members who work in hospitals, long-term care facilities, and federally qualified health centers across the Maryland, D.C. region. Our union supports redistricting because we value equal representation. Redistricting could ensure that every Marylander is represented fairly. Maryland's demographics are quickly changing. The redistricting effort is an opportunity to make sure that our maps are representative of today's population, to be inclusive, and to strengthen Maryland's democracy at a time when other states are seeking to undercut the democratic process. Ensuring every vote counts is not a partisan issue. It's about making sure our districts reflect real communities on the ground. The consequences of failing to redistrict, however, are dire. Without action, everyday people like you and me will continue to bear the burden of policies that raise the cost of living, strip away access to affordable health care, and violate civil rights. I urge you to update Maryland's maps. Thank you for hearing this testimony.
Our next panelist is Dominic Martin.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening. My name is Dominic Martin. I am a candidate for Maryland State House of Delegates, District 44B. I won't be before you long. I come because I believe that Marylanders deserve leaders who stand with them and not above them. I entered this race to speak for the families who feel forgotten, the workers whose paychecks don't stretch far enough, and the communities that carry the weight of every policy decision made in Annapolis. I'm not here to play political games. I'm here because the people in my district are tired of being priced out, passed over, and pushed aside. Marylanders deserve leadership focused on the cost of living and not the cost of winning a national campaign. This decision to push a mid-decade redistricting process outside the normals, time-tested cycle signals something deeply troubling. Instead of dedicating energy to making Maryland affordable for working families, seniors on fixed incomes, and young people trying to build a future here, Wes Moore appears more interested in shaping a political maps that draws more national headlines. As a Black man who has faced the financial pressures, barriers, and day-to-day sacrifices that come with trying to build a stable life in the state, I know firsthand what rising costs do to families. Redistricting should never be used as a stepping stone to the White House. It should be a transparent, deliberate process rooted in stability, fairness, and respect for the communities that have lived in the district for generations. Maryland don't need more political maneuvering. Maryland needs affordability, accountability, and leaders who remember that public service is about the people who go to work every day, pay their bills, and simply want a fair chance to drive. I urge this commission to abandon this effort, return to its focus. Everyday Marylanders want you guys to focus on lowering the crazy more taxes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up on our list is Fitzgerald Mofor. You've received a panelist link.
Good afternoon to those of you that are on this panel, and thank you to the distinguished members of the Governor's Gerrymandering Commission for allowing me to exercise my constitutional liberties and articulate my displeasure with the effort to further gerrymander Maryland's congressional districts. Maryland's top demagogue, Representative Jamie Raskin, calls this effort a moral imperative. His Democrat acolytes in Congress echo these sentiments, adding that this is a necessary response to a totalitarian attack on democratic elections and voting rights. This is Orwellian doublespeak. Extreme partisan gerrymandering in Maryland is the status quo, and Maryland Democrats have participated in the marginalization of millions of voters over the last 25 years with impunity, from Governors Paris Glendening and Martin O'Malley to current Governor Tex Moore. The Democratic leadership in Maryland has consistently influenced the state's congressional districts. Connie Morella was gerrymandered out of Maryland's 8th Congressional District in 2002. Roscoe Bartlett was gerrymandered out of Maryland's 6th Congressional District in 2011. And this was admitted by Martin O'Malley in a sworn deposition in 2017. In 2021, The Princeton Gerrymandering Project, a nonpartisan think tank, gave the Democrat-controlled legislature in Maryland an F grade on its drafted congressional maps. Consequently, Judge Battaglia of Maryland Circuit Court struck down the state's congressional map, ruling it as an unconstitutional extreme partisan gerrymander in Shalaga v. Lamone. Although this ruling isn't binding, nor does it set judicial precedent, Maryland's Declaration of Rights explicitly outlaws extreme partisan gerrymandering. In fact, Article 3, Section 4 in Maryland's Constitution requires that maps be compact, contiguous, and have adjoining territories. The framers of Maryland's Constitution inserted these bylaws in the Declaration of Rights to firmly ensure free and equal elections. Adequate representation for the people of Maryland is a bedrock and a foundational principle of our constitutional republic, and this effort will not pass judicial scrutiny aside from the legislative roadblocks. Citing the failure to pass H.R. 1 for the People Act, which aimed to upend voting ID laws, is also erroneous and does not justify this overt power grab. I'm urging the leaders on this panel to put their attentions elsewhere on issues that Marylanders are much more needed in terms of help and focus on pressing issues that will lower costs for working families and improve the overall quality of life. Thank you guys so much. My name is Fitzgerald Mofor, and I'm really happy to articulate my opposition to this mid-decade gerrymandering commission.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dave McCarthy. Dave, please be sure to unmute. Our next speaker after Dave is Brian Robertson and then Maria Pacala.
We'll move on to our next speaker, Brian Robertson.
Here he
Just
is.
sent you-
Here he is.
Oh,
Dave,
there we are.
Dave was able to join.
There we are. Sorry about that little technical difficulty. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Dave McCarthy, and I'm a citizen and proud Marylander living here in beautiful Annapolis. At a time when Donald Trump and the radical rigging Republicans are looking to steal Democratic representation in Texas, Ohio, Florida, and North Carolina, amongst other states, I support Governor Moore's efforts to fight back and redistrict here in Maryland. If the Republicans don't like the Maryland's redistricting push, they should not have started this fight in red states. As redistricting is being considered, I want to offer my perspective on why Queen Anne's and Kent County and Annapolis should be kept within the same representational framework. Kent County and Queen Anne's relationship to Annapolis is not only about commuting patterns, we are connected by much more than just a bridge. It is about a shared economic and civic ecosystem. Annapolis institutions employ residents from those counties, but they also serve those residents in meaningful ways. Families in Kent and Queen Anne's rely on Annapolis hospitals, universities, small businesses, and cultural institutions. Annapolis is where many of those counties' residents receive specialty medical care, where they attend community events, and where they participate in state civic life. There is also an important transportation reality. The Bay Bridge connects Kent County and Queen Anne's to Annapolis more directly than many communities and is considered part of the same region on paper. The daily cross bridge flow is a major unifying factor, and any district map should recognize that the real community boundary is not the bay, but the connection across it. Kent County is included in the Baltimore Metropolitan Council's regional framework, which shows how the state already views the county from a planning and infrastructure perspective. This designation drives how transportation funds are allocated, how emergency management zones are structured, and how planning models are built. Representation should match that logic the state already uses for planning and budgeting. Redistricting should honor these practical and modern relationships. Kent and Queen Anne's county's future is tied to Annapolis and to Anne Arundel County in ways that are measurable and consistent. Keeping these communities together will give residents representation that reflect their daily lives. Thank you very much for your time today, and for the sake of our nation, I urge you to follow Governor Moore and draw new maps. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Apologies for the delay. Brian Robinson, you're next. I just sent you the panelist link.
Hi, good evening. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Yes, my name is Brian Robertson. I'm a resident of Baltimore City. I'm born and raised in Baltimore City. I still live in Baltimore City, and I've been in Baltimore City for 45 years. I am here to speak and urge you not to pursue this endeavor. I think that the last thing we need in Maryland is more Democratic leadership. As I said, I've been in Baltimore City for 45 years, and it is my perspective, or I should say I've witnessed Democratic leadership just drive the city into the ground. And for those of you who might question my perspective or question what I say, I would urge you, if you think we need more Democratic leadership, look at the test scores in Baltimore City Public Schools. Look at the graduation rates in Baltimore City Public Schools. That is Democratic leadership, and it's terrible. If you think we need more Democratic leadership, take a walk down North Avenue in Baltimore City on a Friday night, and you'll see the results of Democratic leadership. Aside from the obvious problem of one party having the monopoly on the entire state, that one party, namely the Democrats, we've had their leadership in Baltimore City from top to bottom for the last few decades, and it has been terrible. So I would urge you, please do not pursue this endeavor. And I would also urge all of our wonderful Maryland voters to take full advantage of our political rights next year. And we need to change our leadership. You know, we need to go to the polls. And like I said, look at the test scores in Baltimore City schools. Look at the drugs being sold in broad daylight. Our political leaders have not done their job. They don't answer their phones. They're not available. As we heard earlier, also Brooks didn't even show up to this meeting. They're very disconnected from the public. They need to be voted out. That's all I have to say. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Maria Pacala.
Hi, I hope you can hear me. My name is Maria Pacala. I'm a resident of Chevy Chase, in Maryland Legislative District 18. And thank you very much for the opportunity to voice my opinion today. I'd like to say from the outset that these are not normal times. Democracy is under attack. And this is why I urge you to recommend to the governor that Maryland undertake redistricting. If we don't, we are ceding power to a MAGA movement and MAGA administration that are acting together to disenfranchise many of us who they suspect will not support their extreme agenda. I'm a naturalized citizen as well. I'm a mother of daughters. I want them to have a voice in their future. And for that, we have to fight back. The intentions of this MAGA party are evident. They want to maximize their hold on our legislative branch, not to legislate, but to prevent a Congress that represents the people and all of the people from acting as a brake on the extreme MAGA agenda. They don't want the legislative branch to be a counterweight to an all-powerful executive branch. They want to push through their own agenda without any discussion or compromise. The current GOP has demonstrated that they will facilitate this all-powerful executive. Make no mistake, they will. They will facilitate that. So we owe it to our children and to our grandchildren to do all we can to ensure that in the next elections, we retain the voices of reason in Congress, voices that will uphold democracy and our system of government. If we don't redistrict, given the actions of Texas and possibly Georgia, Missouri, Ohio, maybe more, we may lose the ability to make all of the people's voices heard. We may lose democracy. And yes, one vote will make a difference. So I understand some say that by redistricting, Maryland makes itself vulnerable to action by the judiciary that will cause us to lose more than we gain. But don't buy it. Given what you've seen so far, can you be sure that MAGA Republicans won't challenge our current districts anyway? Can you be sure? Redistricting now is the only way forward. So I urge you to support redistricting. Fight back. If you don't, we will lose the support of all our constituents. And frankly, we will lose our democracy. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next up on our list is Larry Ottinger. Larry, I just sent you a panelist link. Larry, you're still muted.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, commission members. Appreciate your public service and the time you're taking. And I wanted to get to this quickly. My name's Larry Ottinger. I live in Montgomery County. I clerked in Baltimore for a U.S. District Court judge. I've founded and served on nonprofits in Maryland, and I'm a proud alumni of Leadership Maryland. These crisis times call for strong leadership, and I commend Governor Moore with support from Congressman Jamie Raskin and former Congressman Steny Hoyer for taking action to do what is right and necessary for Marylanders and the nation. The abuses and harms being waged now by the authoritarian Trump administration with the complicity of a pliant Republican Congress and a radical MAGA Supreme Court supermajority is not just a national problem, it is a Maryland problem. The impact of the federal government on Maryland is huge and often not well understood. Like Virginia, Maryland is home to thousands of federal employees and contractors who have been unjustly fired, furloughed, and put out of work, with the harms extending to their families and communities. Marylanders are going hungry because of this Republican Congress. Marylanders are facing huge hikes in healthcare premiums and other costs of living. Thus, redistricting is not a distraction from other important state issues. It is arguably the most important issue affecting the lives of Marylanders. While it may be difficult and inconvenient, the Maryland legislature can address both the redistricting issue and other state priorities. Redrawing Maryland's maps actually would make them fairer. And I'd note that congressional Republicans uniformly rejected legislation to eliminate gerrymandering across the nation, while all Democrats supported it. Republicans would not all be packed into one district as they are now. As to the concern that Democrats might lose in close districts, Representatives Trump and Delaney show what can be done. And last month's elections in Virginia and elsewhere should bolster confidence. And Marylanders have consistently and overwhelmingly rejected Trump. I urge the commission to do what's right and necessary by redrawing Maryland's maps to ensure the voters are heard fairly and accurately in 2026. I'd be happy to submit written testimony if it's still being accepted. Thanks again for your time and leadership.
Thank you,
Thank
Larry.
you.
You can indeed submit written testimony to grac@maryland.gov. Our next speaker is Lee Finney. And then to the members of the commission, it looks like we only have about 8 more speakers. We may go a little bit over, but if we do go over, it will allow us to get through all of those registered speakers who attended this evening. Thank you.
Lee, you can go ahead.
Lee, you'll need to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay. All right. My name is Lee Finney. I live at Riderwood in Silver Spring in the 8th Congressional District. I'm also on the board of the Riderwood Democratic Club and have been a longtime activist. I strongly support the governor's goal of doing a midterm redistricting process to look for a fairer map, but mostly because I believe that we must reclaim the House in the election next year. This may well be the most consequential election of my very long voting life, since I first voted in 1964. Based on the potential outcomes of redistricting in red and blue states, where redistricting could be meaningful, the Republicans' potential is between 13 and 15 CDs being modified to favor Republican candidates. The Democratic potential appears to be, at best, from 10 to 13 seats that could be turned from red to blue, with Louisiana being the wild card, depending on a Supreme Court we can't really depend on. That decision could result in one additional Democratic seat, but I'm not holding my breath for that. So the Republicans have a structural advantage that we must accommodate. We need to join our colleagues in California and Virginia to do our part to ensure a Democratic House next year. Although there are some legal and political challenges to redrawing a map that may look odd, having served on the Redistricting Commission for the city of Annapolis in the past, I believe that a map can be created that meets these challenges and still results in an additional Democratic CD. Please, let's have Maryland be brave and creative and do what is needed. Courage is contagious. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up on our list is Jesse Peed. Jesse, I just sent you the panelist link.
After Jesse, it will be Thea Fine, Thomas Mew, and Sarah Jane Siegfried.
Jesse, you can go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Jesse Peed, a lifelong Marylander and resident of Prince George's County. I'm also the chairman of the Prince George's County Republican Central Committee. My testimony today is of a personal experience. I'm not here to give statistics. I know that that point has been brought up. I'm here to talk about the nature of redrawing the district lines. I ran for state senate in District 27 twice and did fairly well. When the seat became open, I was perceived as a competitive candidate. So I was drawn out of my district simply because the Democrats decided that the best way to keep their seat was to choose voters rather than voters choosing their elected officials. For example, I had a good following in Prince George's County and spanning other areas to run for office, but the redistricting moved the line down the center of my road, placing me in a different district and alienating the citizens that had supported and voted for me in the previous elections. Gerrymandering is so unfair because not because I felt shortchanged, but because the Marylanders in my old district were. Now the majority wants to eliminate the last Republican congressional district in Maryland and clearly violation of the state constitution. I urge this panel to rethink twice before sanctioning any such action. In closing, should we not put the will of the people first? Thank you, and I appreciate the time. And Merry Christmas to all.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Thea Fine.
Thea, you'll need to unmute.
Thea, are you able to unmute?
Yep, there we go.
There we go.
Sorry. Good evening. My name is Thea Fine. I'm precinct chair for the Riderwood Village in Montgomery County's District 14 and program chair of the Riderwood Village Democratic Club. I'm a longtime Democrat, longtime Marylander, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak in support of Governor Moore's goal to redistrict here in Maryland this year. Normally, I wouldn't automatically support off-cycle redistricting, but these are not normal times given Republicans gerrymandering across the country solely to hold their narrow control of the U.S. House and to preserve what I consider to be a dangerous Trump agenda. It's an agenda that's torn families apart, though we have to cheer that Mr. Abrego Garcia is finally home with his family. But the agenda has tossed thousands of Marylanders out of jobs in federal service. It's put the health and access to health care of Marylanders in jeopardy. It's put children at risk of not getting vaccines that could save their lives, and it's stripped environmental protections from our land and water and air. The impact on the average Marylander is unprecedented. The potential danger for the future of America for our children and grandchildren, and I have too, is terrifying. It's an agenda that must be curbed and guardrails must be restored. which is why I endorse redrawing Maryland's district to favor Democratic candidates for the U.S. House across the state. I do so in the hope of preserving our democracy as we know it. As a senior citizen, I urge you to support this one-time mid-cycle redistricting for the sake of our children and our grandchildren. We owe it to them to preserve our democracy. We owe it to preserve our democratic experiment that as we have for almost 250 years. This is the time for deliberation and deliberate action, not compliance or capitulation. We need every Democratic vote we can get if we're to push back the threats we face from a growing trend toward oligarchy. Too much is at stake today and tomorrow to do otherwise. We must do this redistricting, whether we really want it or not. We have to do it. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Next up is Sarah Jane Siegfried. Sarah Jane, I just sent you your panelist link.
After Sarah Jane, it will be Patricia Fallon, Larry McKenney, and Yvette Delph, and Miles Stanley.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Sarah Jane Siegfried. I'm also a resident of Riderwood Senior Living and a member of the Democratic Club here, living in District 14 in Montgomery County. I am completely sympathetic with the voices that said that they want their own local communities to be better represented in Congress. And I'm sure a lot of us feel that way, that gerrymandering is basically something we'd rather not engage in. But as Thea Fine said just before me, this is not normal times. We have to look at this as a national contest. And Anne Arundel and District 1 are not being represented at all in Congress right now. As long as Andy Harris votes in lockstep with the MAGA majority, they're getting nothing. And that includes all the cuts to healthcare, the cuts to SNAP benefits, the cuts, the closure of Social Security offices that we're going to see coming down on us. So that argument doesn't hold weight in this situation. We need to look at this as a completely different environment that we're in and take this step. Now, it could be mitigated if the bill included a segue to a nonpartisan commission that would take up redistricting again in 4 years when a better job could be done by both parties working together. Right now, there's no impetus for bipartisanship as we know it. The last thing I want to say is if you want to know what fight we're really in, realize that on June 14th, there's going to be a cage fight on the grounds of the south lawn of the White House. And they're going to do, what do you call MMA fighting. That's the fight that we're in. This is not the English gentleman's rules for boxing at all. And we wish we could be there, but we're not. So please look at this as a national fight where 1 or 2 House seats will make a huge difference, and do accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Patricia Fallon. And after Patricia, we only have 3 more speakers. Patricia, you'll need to unmute.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
we can.
thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to let me speak. I'm Patricia Fallon, Chairman of the Baltimore County Republican Party, and I oppose the proposed redistricting map. It takes away any voice of the million Republicans in Maryland, plus the independents who have been voting 60 to 70% for Republicans. It comes from the same people in Annapolis who have forced over 300,000 people to leave Maryland just in the last year because of the policies that have been passed in Annapolis of anti-job, anti-business, anti-family, anti-growth, and anti-energy. Policies that have set the record for over 300 tax increases, making Maryland unaffordable. These are all under Just West Moore. Policies that create massive crime in the neighborhoods, unsafe neighborhoods, and caused police to resign in record numbers. We are down several hundred policemen in each district. Policies that have raised our electric rates to historic highs by closing almost all of our clean burning power plants and limiting the use of natural gas. It has caused us to import most of our electricity now from Pennsylvania. It's going to be up to 70% soon. Policies that take away the rights of local council members to manage their own land use. Policies that allow biological men and women's sports. Policies that spent billions on education, yet 50% of our children cannot read, write, or do math up to grade level. Policies that create crime, drugs, and gang-infested neighborhoods. Policies that can't manage a budget. $2 billion in surplus was at the beginning of the Moore administration. Now we're $2 billion in deficit. Policies that allow illegals to be on our voter rolls. These same people who are now pushing this new map want to silence 40 to 50% of their population because they oppose the incompetent policies and destructive policies of the Democrats, who have taken over our once beautiful state, thriving state, and turning it into an unaffordable state with record high taxes, high crime, and lack of opportunities for its citizens. And if this passes in Annapolis, the courts will quickly end it by applying their last ruling against the gerrymandered Democrat map. It won't take long. The courts will rule against this very quickly. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Next on our list is Larry McKenney. Larry, please accept your panelist link and unmute. Larry, you're still muted.
You should be good now.
Hi, I'm Larry McKinney, longtime resident of Montgomery County, long-term business owner in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. Over the years, I watched the state of Maryland just destroy all business opportunities for business owners by creating incredible, misleading environmental problems. We have this people that seem to talk about democracy, but they're the only ones that are willing to throw out the vote of 40% of the people in Maryland. Andy Harris down is the only Republican left. Andy Harris represents the 40% of people that voted for your tax cuts, not the tax increases. Also, as a longtime athlete in the state of Maryland, we don't want men to be in ladies' locker rooms. The things that used to be just common sense in Maryland seem to be have thrown out. I look at the fact that business people, the taxes just keep going up and up and up. And we talk about the jobs that the federal government, but the federal government, they spend money. Those jobs, they're spending money. Okay, we need in the state of Maryland, we need to build jobs. We need to build industry. We need to bring people back to Maryland that understand how to create jobs. Federal government does not create jobs. Democracy is not gerrymandering to get rid of the only one voice that's left to represent 40% of the people. That's not fair, and it's not about the rest of the country. It's about, let's make Maryland Maryland again, because Maryland used to be great. Over the years, we've gone the wrong direction, and we're going further in the wrong direction. And this map is an example of people being just lost. So I vote that we not redistrict the one individual that just gave us a tax cut. the one individual that just gave mothers more money in their pocket for the child tax.
Our next speaker is Yvette Delph.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Members of the Commission, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I'm a retired physician, a Maryland resident for nearly 30 years, and a U.S. citizen by choice. For me, free and fair elections are not an abstraction. They are very personal. I spent 24 years in political exile because of a dictatorial regime that rigged elections. I returned to the land of my birth for the first time in 1993. My return to Guyana was possible because international pressure, including the United States, succeeded in ensuring that for the first time, free and fair elections were held in 1992 for the first time in 28 years, and the regime was voted out. Here in the United States, Republican-led states are redrawing congressional district maps nationwide in an anti-democratic push to rig the 2026 elections. We are in the midst of an authoritarian takeover, and the opportunity to prevent its consolidation of power is rapidly diminishing. Please listen to those of us who have experienced firsthand or studied authoritarian takeovers and regimes. This is a 5+ alarm fire. Every tool at our disposal must be used to stop the takeover. We all need to do whatever we can lawfully to halt the regime's authoritarian takeover. Our democracy needs all of us to fight. What will you say when your children and grandchildren ask you what you did and what you didn't do that you could have to stop this authoritarian takeover? I implore you to recommend to the governor and the General Assembly that Maryland immediately commence redistricting to help level the electoral playing field. If, dare I say when, we are able to stop the authoritarian regime, we can begin the long task of repairing the immense damage being done and rebuilding our country to become even better, including eliminating any future possibility of gerrymandering and ensuring congressional districting cannot be used to rig subsequent elections. Thank you very much for your attention and have a wonderful holiday season. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra Dillman, you are next. Please accept your panelist link and unmute, and Sandra will be our final speaker for tonight. It said on my screen that Sandra, okay, here we go. She's coming in now.
Hi, my name is Sandra Dillman. I live in Baltimore County. Hi. Hello.
We can hear
you. We can hear you. You're good.
My name is Sandra Dillman. I live in Baltimore County. I've lived in Maryland for only 9 years, and the changes that I've seen to the detriment of the state in the past 9 years is remarkable. I am against the further gerrymandering of this state. Thank you.
Thank you. So, gentlemen, I'm going to turn it back to you, Attorney General Frosch. just to let those who are still on the meeting know that we have gone through this list to see if anyone joined that potentially we called before they joined. And as of right now, there is no one in the attendees section who is still on the list. So if you are still signed in and watching this and you had registered but were not called, clearly something has happened and it might be an email thing or whatever, but we do not have your name on the list. So I highly recommend that you email grac@maryland.gov if you were not called and were expecting to be so tonight. Thank you.
Well, I want to say thank you to everyone. We had excellent testimony from a lot of people. And I want to thank especially my colleagues on the panel who suggested that we hear everyone who had signed up. And thanks to our excellent staff, to Kristen, to Andrew, to Jessica. I think this is the end of our listening process. I'm proud of the way that it has gone so far, and we look forward to moving forward with the deliberations and recommendations of the commission. And with that, I think our proceedings this evening are concluded.
Thank you.